and actually anyway. There.
Welcome back, everybody. The Creative Moment, Season 6, Episode 6, double sixes today. On this sun-kissed day, for both of us.
Nice.
Sunburnt, but I'm Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer. We are both creatives. He's a writer, poet. I'm a photographer, media man, so to speak.
Good alliteration there.
Yes. Learned something in your English class. And we're here today to drop some value. So let's get right into it. I had a bubbler explode on me this morning.
Uh-oh.
Like literally everywhere. And I dropped my shoe in the trash can because of it. Today, our topic is what are the elements that give art, so ranging kind of the whole creative spectrum there, what are the elements that give art value? Whether it's, a couple points you touched on in your text, rarity, quality, different sorts, and I think it changes for both of our industries in a sense. There are some similars and some non-similar, some different aspects.
Yeah, the characteristics kind of come from how they value sculptures, paintings, any art house you might look up. And each art house kind of has a couple of small little variants. One mentioned social importance or historical value, another. So it's just kind of, when I sent you the text, it was just like, these are the most common that you see, no matter
spanning
what.
Across the ranges.
And their pages that they set up are for people to, you found. So here's how you might value. And obviously they're talking monetary, but within the characteristics, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, value usually leads to a monetary value, especially in the painting world. But I think you kind of get what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
We attach money and value a lot, but the value of a painting or a piece of art can be a lot more than just what someone would pay for it.
And that's why, and so they all have some. And then I was talking to Coach K at practice, and we were talking about music, and some stuff was coming up about, growing up in the 80s and stuff, which is kind of clear. I'm just like, let's just discuss and, how we see some of these characteristics playing out in our world.
Okay. So, I'll start this time.
Okay.
I'll take the mic.
Oh.
One of the things that I thought of that was in your text was rarity. And this is one that I kind of struggled a little bit with in terms of how common it is across all the different platforms of art. Because obviously, like I touched on, painting, there's only one Mona Lisa. There's only one screen painting, whatever, as far as I know. And that kind of is the same in photography if you get big enough, typically in the landscape space or a couple other spaces. But photography, the landscape space is full of rarity. Peter Lick only sells a limited amount of his prints. I'm still selling unlimited if you guys want to check them out. But that's becoming the only aspect of photography now that I feel is about rarity. Because,
or NFTs, because they print only, so supposedly only 50 copies or something.
But on that same vein, all of my photos that I post online, as soon as I post them, technically the file is still rare. It's one of one, but people can have that same photo as soon as I post it. Boom! It's no longer rare. It's infinite. It's permanent. All that stuff. So. And same with music. Once you publish a song, it's out there basically.
Or a poem.
Yeah.
Like that.
With writing as well.
Yeah. And as I'm trying to submit stuff now, I can't really post them because the lit magazines are like, we don't want this anywhere else. We want to be the ones that has the first. After that, after so many months or something.
Right.
But as soon as I tweet a poem.
Yeah. And so where I kind of thought of it in the music route was it's almost the collection, for example, Prince, who's passed away, his collection of music that he published, that's all you're going to get now. So his music is kind of rare in the sense that it's never going to multiply.
Yeah. Well, and they're coming from the vault too,
his unfinished works,
all the physical tapes, and the things along that line. And so kind of trying to add rarity to it. But as soon as it's on Spotify, though, or Apple Music, or what,
Anybody can stream.
anybody can stream it. Like, you don't even have to buy it. And that's where, like, me and Coach K were talking about, like, music was one of the aspects. But as your generation, like, you can't go discover anything. Or you can't bootlegs. I was talking when I was talking to Coach K. I actually have the tape bootleg of Prince's Black album, which at that time was out for like an hour maybe, and then he took it off the shelves. Now they later released it. He did actually, but at that time, oh my gosh, somehow, and I don't know how many tapes have been made, but to have the bootleg of the Black album was phenomenal. Like, oh my gosh. And you don't experience that.
Yeah.
You just don't. You can't go and discover or find a Japanese import maybe of an LP or, something that's just new and different at a record store or stuff. And so music especially, I think, has honestly been hit really hard with the idea of rarity, of something new, different. There's only a few copies in the
kind
world.
Of the same with film roll to digital in the photography space.
Yeah.
As soon as you go digital, nothing's really rare anymore when you post it or like you publish it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if rarity, it is to a certain extent, and that extent kind of varies in definition based through industries, but that was kind of one that I thought you can kind of put your hand in each bucket somewhat, say that is one element that strands through all those. But that was kind of my first thought, thinking that out. So that was kind of one of my elements.
Well, and I think even we've already touched, but that aspect in today's world is a very unique component. And so, for example, if I like I said, I've not released a lot of stuff because I've just submitted a lot of things. But maybe somewhere down the road, maybe I'll become famous when I'm dead, like happens to a lot of poets. But those poems might be found, the rough, like that, and all of a sudden amps up the value because it's not on the internet somewhere. It's not on a Google Drive. It's like either like handwritten or something along that lines. Yeah. And so that component, honestly, now though, is not.
And like the rarity of maybe I will only take X amount of trips to Hawaii or whatever. So if people really like, say I blew up in the landscape space or whatever, and my most famous prints were Hawaii prints, and then I move on to the next life, and then boom, there's only now X amount of Hawaii photos that I have available for print. So those become a little more rare, even if I took like 4 trips, because there'll never be a new set, a new kind of take on Hawaii type thing. So it can connect in some place. You have to reach a little farther to find it, but that was kind of one of my elements that I saw that really gives art a lot of value. But rarity in itself is becoming more sparse and rare.
It's becoming.
Put that on a t-shirt, Elon.
Okay, so one thing that we had talked about that showed up though was actually the skill set of the artist, or how well it, versus like a Picasso original versus the sketched out work, like stuff found in a notebook, and that level of expertise in what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that kind of draws into, for me, like sports. Like you will only see a couple people every 4. Like I never saw Michael Jordan play basketball. I've seen LeBron James. So they're like 1A, 1B, however you want to frame it, of like the greatest ever. I feel like basketball is kind of your skill set's kind of an art form because they do it at such a high level. Yeah. You just don't see that as often as you do with just kind of the average
right.
work.
And that's a interesting component because right now, obviously, we've talked about social media stuff, but it's just like, man, people like the NBA Finals are coming. Like, these are the best basketball players on the planet. How are we discussing like there's some junior high? Like, where is the appreciation of like the we had talked because Celtics fan, everybody kind of knows that, but Indiana, like, holy cow, they're off. Like, that skill set was incredible. They're like, but nobody's appreciating that, and
Because you see it in a vacuum of
Yes.
such elite
All the
level of
time.
play. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see ESPN junior high games
Yeah.
like Adams Central basketball. Like,
no,
and if you saw those two play each other, obviously there's always this Twitter thing of the worst NBA player on your team would handle anybody in like your hometown easily at basketball, even though you
show up at the Y,
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah, like I 100% agree with that because, you know, Peter Lick's photos, the reason he's so famous is because his photos are that much better. There's not as many Peter Licks in the world, if any, as there are maybe landscape photographers as good as me. And so that makes my photos in the like aggregate less valuable overall in the grand like population.
Yeah. And then, but you're like, that's the beauty of being a creative, though, is working on that skill set, you know. And in fact, to a degree, we always see a lot of creatives, lots of, you know, movies and stuff when we really do like, oh, well, that was horrible, that was good. But yet, when you really start to break down some things and appreciate what it took to create that. It doesn't mean that there aren't bad movies or that there's bad poetry or that, you know what I'm saying, but it's like still the skill set that's involved to produce some of these things. Because we, again, even movies or books, why do we read a book? Because it gets suggested, it's got a review, you know, like it's well written. Nobody really says, here, read this poem, this is horrible. You know, like all of it kind of gets put into a vacuum in a sense because, and then I think people don't appreciate the value, which I already talked about, but just like you don't appreciate the value of something that is so well done with it in that medium because that skill set takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time, whether it's a 10,000 hours or not, the idea, but still, like, the skill set is a big aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think there's certain baselines that we judge, going kind of back to the NBA talk, but certain baselines that we judge good and bad. For a movie to make it to the box office, it has to be at a baseline level of quality to someone for them to get the budget and the actors and all that stuff. And for the box office to, you know, the movie theaters put it out. It might be bad inside that baseline, but it is so much better than my stop motion movie of Lego Star Wars. Like, if you compare the two, you say that movie's way better.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it is just kind of lazy ignorance. And it's just kind of easier to say good and bad versus, oh, it wasn't, you know, the best, but so much better than it. Like, that's just kind of a longer conversation people typically have about, you know, liking or not liking something. But it takes a certain level of nuance to understand, okay, I'm within this baseline. How can I move up to the top of the baseline? And once I get to the next baseline, I'll be the worst of that group.
Yeah.
Like freshman JV varsity, that type of thing. So I think that's something that people really need to understand. Like, I will never be able to charge I hope I will, but like $10,000 for a senior photo shoot. I will probably never be able to charge that. There's a lot of nuance in that conversation, but part of it is because my skills are probably not good enough to be in that baseline and have the person feel good about the product. They would say it's bad, and a lot of that would probably be like because I paid $10,000 for it. Where if they paid $100,000, they'd be like, wow, this is amazing. These are amazing photos. And so that's kind of the nuance of that skill set value element.
Right. And within the skill set, within the bigger picture, using the senior photo aspect, you know, is what that skill is valued at in the culture at that time. You know,
Right.
and that's to a degree. This is where I think music, because we already touched upon it a little bit. I think where music has been decimated in regards to value, because it doesn't matter what song. If you use Apple Music, it's $1. Doesn't matter the quality, the skill set of the performers, the lyric content, anything. It's just everything's basically $1. You know, maybe $1.29 if. Or you just get Spotify and handle, you know, it's like if you really look at this idea of value within the music industry, skill set doesn't even matter.
It's just how many people can you get to listen to you.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting part of that genre. I guess I didn't think about that really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I mean,
it still builds value to the artist, kind of, because the better your skill is, the more money you get.
But there's other parts like reputation, which is also one of the things, is the artist's reputation built into that, because their skill set is connected to that. You're not going to have a good reputation if your skill set isn't strong.
Yeah, and that's kind of the resume reputation was kind of my next one of Peter, it touches into why Peter Litt can only sell 200 of these photos and then never sell one again and be okay with it, because
he sells all 200 of them.
Yeah, he's Peter Litt. His reputation he's built up from, you know, all his hard work and the skill set. Like I said, those are kind of in tandem. He's built all that repertoire up that he has galleries all over, and he can say, yeah, I'm only selling 200. That's it. Like, you either get it or you don't.
Yep.
And, you know, the whole 9 yards with that. So that's where I feel I have built up a very well-rounded reputation of being kind of the one-stop shop for, like, graphics, photos, videos, whatever. Building up that reputation gives me a lot of street cred in the marketplace, so to speak, because people can be like, oh, anything I want him to do, he has the ability to do. And so that reputation helps add kind of the value to my company that otherwise, if I was like, I'm a photographer, if you want to do a video, like,
yeah, you'd have to.
I kind of know video, but like if you want it to be as good as my photos are, you probably got to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
So having that reputation has helped me add value to my just overall kind of body of work, I guess.
And what's interesting, the flip side of reputation, as I was thinking about this, so let's go back to Stephen King a little bit. You know, some people say his writing is not as scary or stuff as it was when he was younger. Okay, and you see this also in all kinds of different areas of creativity and even music where like they do something different. They're still a skilled writer, but they choose to do something different, which kind of goes to originality and stuff a little bit. But it's like the other part is in our culture, as soon as you have a reputation, then you almost can't get out of it. Like, you can't do something different, even though your skill set allows you to. Okay, Stephen King he's still writing really great, but there's a lot of different stuff that he's writing now. Like, I'm reading Fairy Tale right now, which has its spooky elements, but it's a little bit more fantasy oriented. It's a really interesting story, but if you liked his old stuff and, you know, it's not it. You know, it's a different kind of writing. But you can still hear his voice. You know, Pearl Jam, a band that has been around for a long time. Some people think, you know, they're not like they were when they're, well, no, because they're older. They talk more about stuff, but yet their reputation has held strong because, you know, they produce some really good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that, let me see if I can thread this needle here. So I saw on Twitter, no matter your age, transcends age, no matter your age, the best of basically everything, the best music, the best food, the best, when politics were the most correct, it goes like down to the nth degree of what was the best party, what was the best stuff in your life, best movies, it was around 14 and a half years old. So like it was around this age, and it talks about the nostalgia of kind of your life. You always think that things were better back then.
Okay.
And so with that, like when Peter McKinnon has transformed from digital now and like super hype and all this, now he just solely shoots film. And when he first made that change, everyone hated it. They're like, you need to go back to the old Peter McKinnon, whatever.
Yep.
And so that plays into the nostalgia impact and the reputation. If you build that reputation of, Pearl Jam being like more soft rock, I don't know.
No, they were grunge.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
He just showed his age.
All I know
and
is
mine.
the one Ice Age. The one Ice Age song. The Breathe song? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Yep.
I'll have to look it up. Anyway, but the nostalgia aspect when an artist decides to make a pivot into a different area that they're not maybe known for or whatever, it's just kind of a weird psychological trend that you just think, oh, he was better back then.
Yeah. Interesting.
Whether it is or not.
Yeah. And that's where the idea of skill set and all this other stuff comes into play to what still gives it value. But that's a little bit because the consumer at the end of the day kind of determines value.
Yeah. They probably value a Pearl Jam like vinyl record from back then than they would 2 years ago or something. So that was a super interesting. I hope I threaded that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, we did. That's good.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The last one, the one that again, each of the the articles and stuff, they had social influence on some, and others didn't though, or they had history, but one of them was though within all that, the skill set, the artist rep, rarity to a degree, but actually, which kind of plays into this originality, how it as a piece of art stands out from the other components, which is a little bit different than rarity.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, though, I think this is where, especially in both of our worlds, photography and writing, and especially poetry, is holy cow. So I do a lot of prompt-based things, little fun contests on the app formerly known as Twitter, and some things like that. So everybody's writing about that word, and the very short stories. That's another one that we do, very short story 365. And so everybody's writing about that. And so doing something original with that word is hard as heck.
Yeah, you all have the common denominator that's preset, and you have to figure out how to stand out, staying within that.
Because within one of them, the battle arena, they actually select a winner at the towards the middle of the week from last week. And we all vote. They select 5, and we vote. Yes, I have won one of the battles. And what was interesting about that, I hit them with something totally unique in regards to my voice, and I designed my own poetic form for that prompt. And the prompt was a gossamer thread, or the idea, and I wrote a poem called "I Am the Spider." And designed the form, which connected into my reputation, which is kind of the king of form, teach, and stuff. And in that sense, that was one of the times where, to a degree, in a small little community, they saw that as the best in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah. So, to tie it into mine, senior photos, right? It's about to be senior photo season. The technicalities of photography, photographing portraiture, that's the common denominator there. You're highlighting their face, you're doing a lot of kind of movement, stuff like that.
Trying to tell the story of them.
Yes, you're trying to exemplify them as a person through those photos. So that that stuff will never change. That's a direct correlation to having a senior photographer. Where I can be original, where right now it's, I see a lot of, and there's more female photographers than male photographers, I presume. So, the female photographers tend to be a little more on trend. So they'll shift kind of their style, still maintain their style, but shift it with the trends, whether it's bringing down the whites or whatever they kind of like to do that's also within that trend, like the blurry photo thing, whatever. I decided, okay, I'm not going to be, I can pick one of those and a couple photos here, pick one of those trends and use it for a photo, but my overall originality of the way I edit, I feel is what kind of makes me stand out through the common denominator of senior photos. Is it's not going to be these colors will be desaturated and these colors won't be because that's the trend right now. It's just going to be super bright, bold, pop, and it's going to stand out because when I scroll my business account, it's orange and teal, orange and teal, orange and teal, super condensed S curve, and mine is just like bright everywhere. Whatever colors are there are the colors that are going to pop. Obviously I pick and choose. It's not just throw saturation all the way to the right, but that is where I feel the originality of my edit stands out, at least to the people that like that type of thing. Mm-hmm. In just to put it in a vacuum, the senior photo kind of Nebraska senior photo landscape.
Yeah. But and some like painting, sculpting, stuff like that, it's a little easier to be original to a degree. And other fields, like how many pictures are there of mountains in the landscaping world?
Well, and that's where when Peter Lick was coming into it, that's how he stood out, is because everybody has a photo of the Grand Tetons. Yeah. That's like a super famous stopping point.
Yeah,
everyone's photographed that mountain. What he did when he was coming up is he would crop his photos in such non-technically correct ways, like super small slivers of stuff, maybe some super wide, a super fat, one by one. And that's kind of how his stood out in a world of very saturated landscape photos. Everybody knows the cool spots to go. And he also had, he had a little more saturation than most did at that time. His photos were very, very saturated and bright. And then they had that giant crop. That was his originality. People could have the exact same photo, but it's in the standard 4:6 ratio. That's how he placed his originality in that industry.
Yeah. So you got to know the rules to break them.
Yep. We've touched on that.
We've touched on that before too.
So that was our. Do I have time? I do. Yeah. I have a minute. Okay, that was our season 6, episode 6 of The Creative Moment. Hope you guys learned something. We're on all the platforms: Spotify, Apple, Anchor, YouTube. Spotify has video as well. And then our personal stuff. A lot of his work's on Twitter. Some of mine, more of mine's on Instagram. But you can find us everywhere. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys for watching as always. Subscribe to us on wherever you listen or watch. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.